This is SciByte, episode 62 for September 11th, 2012. Hi everyone, and welcome to SciByte, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly science podcast. Streamed every single Tuesday evening over at jupiterbroadcasting.com/live and available Wednesdays on demand. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week is Heather. Hey Heather.
Hey Chris.
Happy science to you.
Happy science.
What are we talking about this week?
This week we're going to take a look at the Stradivarius violins, Tiger time sharing, asteroids, hydrogel, running robots, disintegrating planets, spacecraft updates, and as always, take a peek back in history and up in the sky this week.
Finally, this show addresses the topic of Tiger time sharing. I say It's time to do the news. All right, Heather, don't disappoint me. What is our first story tonight?
All right. Tigers generally move around at all times of the day and the night, but it's discovered that the tigers in the Chitwan National Park in Nepal have actually become mostly night creatures.
Okay.
They're mostly moving around at night. So they're really using the same space as the people there. And in order to be for some, long-term future, there has to be some division there.
Okay.
So there's been analysis about the local human population is collecting firewood. There's soldiers on patrols to kind of deter poachers. There's this ecotourism. And they've actually had all of these camera traps, which we've talked about before on a number of different occasions. They set up a box and it takes pictures of the day or the night every time it walks by. So they had them scattered about this park. And, during the day it catches people. And they saw in the populated areas the tigers started appearing mostly at night. Now, if you went away from the populated areas, it was day and night equally.
Huh.
So the tigers were they don't particularly like to deal with humans. They'd rather not. They're annoying for them, I think.
Sure, yeah.
We're annoying for them. But so they started adjusting their activity cycle. So it was going at night. So it's like these same paths and areas, like during the day, people, and then as soon as night falls, everyone is pretty much inside.
The night crew comes out and it's the tigers.
Yeah, the night crew comes out and the tigers. So they're like time sharing the same, area of land. And they were able to do this research from January through May. So it was through the entire dry season, but before the monsoon began.
And so you're telling me that if these same observers take their equipment and set up cameras and whatever they're doing, and go to away from civilization, then these same tigers will do the same exact type of activity during the day?
Yes, they were actually able to see that as they went away from it, they did. They were doing, their activity rate was much higher during the day. So it was just around that park. They were much more likely to be active at night. And they're like thousands of images that they went through of people and tigers all walking down the same trails, just at different times of the day.
That's interesting.
And what this led into is the fact that the overall tiger population in the park didn't drop when more humans were around. In 2010, there was an average of 4.4 tigers per 100 square kilometers. And the next year, that jumped up 40%, even though the human population in the camera traps also grew 55%. So in this specific case, it's the human population is not affecting the tiger population.
So it seems like then if the tigers are able to successfully adapt to a nighttime lifestyle and I guess sleep during the day or whatever they're doing, and they're able to then catch the same prey that they would have already caught during the day, as long as we as the humans can keep their area that they're running around in, preserved so that it's still safe and beneficial to them, then coexistence seems possible.
Oh, incredibly so. There's, opens up the ability that there might be this middle ground where you can protect these certain species in, human populated areas. Now, of course, it's not going to work for everything. It's going to be kind of a case-by-case basis, and it'll all shift between species, between habitat.
Yeah.
But,
not all species are as adaptable.
Yeah, but the whole idea that, this is a new angle of being able to share the same space, in a non-effective way. The humans are obviously able to continue doing their thing. They can, they have the tourists, they have their fire, they gather their firewood, but the tigers are also being able to go out and do their thing. And it's, the tigers are consciously, it seems, doing this, or have sort of switched to the night shift in this specific area because that's when the lay of land is theirs.
Now, we got to make sure that it's clear so that way you don't have a bunch of tourists going in there for a nighttime stroll.
No, it was pretty clear. It's like, it's a start. People go out during the day, and then as soon as night falls, clunk, all the doors go closed, windows go shut.
Yeah.
There's tigers in the area.
Tiger time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even before the tigers started switching, you didn't want to be wandering out in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah.
And look like a tasty midnight snack for a tiger.
You got to be careful when you're in Tiger Town.
Yeah. So, they started, locking up. And so then I'm pretty sure the tigers are like, going in and out during the day or the night. And they're like, we have this place all to ourselves at night. This is the way to go.
That's way better. Yeah, for them, it's way better. It's not nearly as dangerous for them.
Yeah. And
yeah.
So it was really interesting study that because it was so localized, once they started going away from the populated areas, like we said, it was normal sort of day-night cycles for them.
Very encouraging. And what I'd be really curious to hear is if there are any future reports of other types of animals that are adaptable like this, because you think it's almost like a survival thing. So it might not be that uncommon that animals have a capacity to adjust.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to adjust. They can, in their own way, try to adjust. And now that this is seen here, these kind of things happen a lot where you have a camera, all these camera traps in this whole study, and they take thousands and thousands of pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And now these people say, hey, I actually see this happening. And now you can go into other areas where there is a mixed population of humans and animals, and the researchers there can then go, hey, I wonder if that happens for us. Let's look.
Yeah, sure.
So then they start analyzing their data for that specific case.
Be interesting to find out. All right. Well then, with that, why don't we take a quick pause here and mention how folks can support this program and keep shows just like SciByte coming to you. Now, Jupiter Broadcasting doesn't have many sponsors, and I think we all kind of like it that way, don't we?
Yeah.
And one of the ways that we get by getting away with that little trick is we get sponsored directly by our audience. And you can participate and keep these shows coming to you by using the affiliate system that we've set up. We have affiliate links down at the bottom of Jupiter Broadcasting. I'll be announcing a new one in this week's episode of Unfiltered that I'm very excited about. And we also have a support model where you can just donate directly, and then you're not going through a middleman. You know exactly how much you're contributing to the network, and it helps you feel like you have a bit of ownership. And honestly, it keeps us answering directly to you and keeps all the sponsorships to a minimum. Doesn't mean we don't have any sponsors, but it means we can keep them to a minimum as possible. And in fact, Heather and I do have a couple of picks if you are thinking about trying the affiliate system. I mentioned it last week, but I think it deserves another mention, don't you, Heather? That's the Avengers, right?
Yes, definitely.
Like the summer movie, which Heather hasn't seen yet. So I'm really, after you see it, you gotta let me know, and then we can mention it on the show. And because I'm curious to see what you think. Now, did you like Iron Man and those movies?
Yes, I've really enjoyed all the ones.
All right, okay, so there you go. So of course it comes out in just a few weeks, September 25th. You can
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2, right? You can pre-order it, or you can not, and then not have it, but oh my gosh. And then also,
you could be missing out.
I'm going to go also mention is something that'll be germane to this week's episode of SciByte, the mystery of the hieroglyphs, the story of the Rosetta Stone, and the race to decipher the Egyptian hieroglyphs. And stay tuned for this week's episode. You'll find out how that's relevant. But if we pique your interest, that might be another way you could you could think about supporting the network. Now, something that's completely free, I just want to let you folks know about if you're a Jupiter Broadcasting fan, is Not Bryant in the chat room. I think he's in there right now watching SciByte, made a new Android app for the network. Now, there are some other apps in there you can check out as well in the Google Play Store, but it's called Callisto. Huh? Clever, right, Heather?
Nice.
And it lets you listen to our pre-recorded back catalog, so you could go grab old episodes of SciByte or grab the absolute latest. It lets you tune into the live shows and join the IRC chat room from within the app. You can look at the calendar to see the upcoming schedule, and you can also you hit the little contact button if you want to send some feedback to the show. There's also a donate button where you can contribute to the network. And
Wow.
so yeah, check it out. And it's available in the Android Play Store. I hate calling it that. It's free. So you just it's also open source. So if you are a developer and interested in contributing to that, it was just published on GitHub and all that kind of stuff. So it's really cool. And thank you to Not Bryant in the IRC chat room for doing that for us. Isn't that awesome, Heather, to have a community member just do that? That's
Good job.
I love that. And then to make it free, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. All right, then why don't we move on to the SciByte News Bite? Okay, Heather, what is the first story of the News Bite?
And it goes with the fact that I'm waving my arms like I'm conducting an orchestra for
perfect.
that introduction.
Yes.
Looking at Stradivarius violins.
Whoa, okay. Strata, yeah.
Stradivarius. It's the really famous violins. They sound incredible and really haven't been able to figure out why they do or how to reproduce it
You're kidding me.
until recently.
Oh.
Now, back a couple years ago, they've looked at, ways that maybe the varnish on the specific wood, changed it so that the tone quality was there. Now, there's been another study recently that says that they've possibly found a special fungus that they could apply to the wood that makes it sound the same.
A fungus?
Yes. So a good violin, it doesn't depend on the maker, it's also the quality of the wood. You're looking for this low density, high speed of sound. It's the makeup of the wood. Kind of makes sense. How the cell structure is laid out depends on how the sound flows through it.
Yeah, okay. That does make sense when you break it down like that.
So you want a specific, elasticity. You want the cells created, because you have, cell structures that, sound reduction walls, but you also want to have one that, projects it in just the right way. So the idea was that some of them have looked at it and they said there was a cold period during the time where Antonio Stradivari was making these violins between 1645 and 1715. And it was this long winters, cool summers, so the wood could grow at a really slow, even rate.
Okay.
Which created this low density, the elasticity. So it was kind of this whole wood that wasn't, slow in the winter, fast in the summer. So it was very even. And other past experiments have said that it's a specific varnish, the chemicals in the varnish actually applied to the wood and kind of created that. This says that what this group was able to do is they were able to apply a fungus to the wood, and it was able to kind of eat the wood in a specific way.
So they weren't maybe totally off the mark with the varnish, because maybe in theory the varnish was eating the wood in a somewhat similar way, creating a somewhat similar, close approximation of the sound.
Somewhat. It was how the chemicals affected the wood.
Yeah.
So this is another way that they're kind of affecting the wood. They're able to kind of go through and apply this fungus, and it's able to kind of degrade the cell walls, kind of thin them up.
Wow.
So able to change the quality of the wood itself. Then they kind of pass it through this ethylene oxide gas, so it kind of kills all the fungus in it, so they can apply it for so long, then kill it out. What they're able to do is... there's been a new release of data about this. Back in 2009, they had some original testing going on, and they were able to play a blind behind-the-scenes curtain test, with a genuine Stradivarius from 1711. So they had, a jury of experts and an audience, and they played all these different violins, the Stradivari, a couple other violins, these, and they applied it for the fungus for 9 months and they killed it off, and it actually fooled them.
Huh.
They voted on which one was Stradivarius, and the fungus applied one was the number 1 vote. The Stradivarius was the number 2 vote. So we're getting towards these ways that these high quality instruments, there are only, I think, a couple hundred left of this specific violin. They sell for goodness knows how much money. Huge amounts of money. But these different types of ways that we're looking at now, we're able to see, varnishes or these, fungal treatments that can increase the quality of an instrument, to this high, to the high quality that, only the high experts get to deal with. And maybe we can bring that price, that quality down. I mean, of course, the Stradivarius are very, rare, and they will always have a high price tag. But can we bring down a quality to the fact that
can we make a generic brand now?
Generic where a normal musician could actually get a chance to play something.
Even if it was like a 95% close approximation. I'd go for that. And the other thing I wonder, the first question that came to my mind is, could this be applied to other instruments? How many other instruments would sound differently if their wood structure was, maybe porous isn't the right word, but,
if you're able to thin the cellular walls?
Of some other instrument. That could be interesting.
Any wood-walled instrument, I would imagine, cello or, any of those, where the sound is, partly reverberated throughout the wood. And that's, changing the tone of the sound. I imagine that it could be applied to anything like that.
That's what I'm wondering. That could be really neat.
So at this point, they're kind of going, all right, how much fungal treatment is needed? How much do you put on there? How long do you leave it on there? All these processes of kind of getting it down to science to be able to increase the tonal quality.
So you know what this really does reveal, though?
What? Science makes music?
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, music is science and vice versa. But I think what it really tells us is that the original wood violins from way back when were probably just, they probably were very prestigious, but they probably just had some fungus on them. And all these years later, it's just a little fungus.
Well, there were other violin makers at the time who were just as skilled. It was just the specific wood that he used. It had
a fungus.
Well, it was a fungus. It had floated down. It was a specific type of growth wood. It floated down the river and hung out there for a little while. Then it got brought in, and it had specific varnish and chemical treatments applied to it. So all these things came together.
Well, you could zoom out from there. Think about it. Yeah, that's just crazy, right? He had a very fortunate circumstance, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. So, and that brought it forward to today where, he made, so many, and then only a couple hundred survived to this day. But it was because of those, conglomeration of events that just happened to happen for him.
Yeah.
And now we're able to sort of go back and kind of recreate in different ways, get to that same quality through different means.
That's neat.
And it's funny, they, in order to analyze the chemicals in the varnish, they had to really beg some, someone who went through and reconstructed and, took care of them. They beg for a little shaving left over.
Oh, I bet.
That little bit right there.
Can we just chip that piece off right there?
Something that came off from when they were
Oh my gosh, did they pay them for that, do you think?
I don't know. I don't think they said. But, if you get a chance, you get a chance. You're like, please, sir, please, when we have a little sweeping.
Do it for science.
Science.
Wow, I hadn't even thought about how they got. Yeah, I bet that was intense.
Yeah.
Very interesting, Heather. Well, any other thoughts on that one?
No, it's just finding new ways to kind of recreate what has happened in the past.
Yeah, and perhaps now everyone can hope and plan for a generic knockoff coming to a Walmart near them, right? So, and it'll say right on there, it'll have stamped right on there, made from authentic fungus.
That's okay. Our local high school marching band can now play with the best of them.
All right, Heather, with that said, I think it's time for the 2-Byte News. It's always official. The 2-Byte News. Byte News is in twos. And this 2-Byte News all time. All right. That was good. I felt good. Yeah. So what is our first story in the 2-Byte News?
All right. NASA and the Planetary Society are giving students worldwide the opportunity to name an asteroid that an upcoming NASA mission will return samples from.
Oh my gosh, lucky kids.
They're doing an asteroid sample return, and this happens a lot of times. They're like, all right, kids worldwide, you have a chance to name this.
What a fun way to get kids excited about science.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was the same thing for the Curiosity rover. You know, it was named by, you know, I think she was a 5th grader when they were starting to do it. And, you know, right before they launched, they like invited her in and she actually got to sign her name on it. And, you know, so
I got an idea. How about they open this up to the taxpayer? Because I tell you what, as a taxpayer, I'd sure love to get a chance to take a crack at this stuff. You know, those kids got to put those 2 pairs of Polaroid cameras over the moon taking pictures of stuff. I didn't get anything. And I probably financed some of that. Well,
tell you what, adult has to be the one to submit. So, sit down with your little guy. Be like, all right.
I forgot I could leverage the fact that I have children.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Now, you might, I don't know how many words Abby has in her repertoire. So.
Oh my gosh, I have 2 kids. I could leverage. Good point.
Yeah. Now, the deadline is December 2nd.
Okay.
So you have to realize their vocabulary between now and then.
So if we have kids or parents of kids listening, where would they go to have a shot at this?
There is a link in the show notes about it. You can go to the Planetary Society contest page, planetary.org/get-involved/contests. Anyway, the whole link is in the
show notes.
Link is in the show notes. So what you're able to do is anyone under the age of 18, anywhere in the world, you submit one name, up to 16 characters long, and you have a short explanation and rationale for your names, like awesomeness, because it's awesome. Something probably more in-depth than that might win.
This is actually really easy to do. They even have, you can just do it all right here. They have a submission form right here I'm looking at.
Yep. And so all you have, then a panel will review all the names. First prize will be awarded, and you know it'll be approved by the International Astronomical Union Committee, and it'll actually be an approved name for an asteroid.
Cool.
And they're planning on doing the sample return mission, launching it in 2016. Now they say they even planned a crewed mission, like people, astronauts, in 2025. But
what?
Hand wave, question mark, shrug shoulders.
Yeah, shrug shoulders for sure.
Many emoticons over the vocal waves. Now, I do believe that a sample return mission will probably maybe happen. Maybe not in 2016.
Okay.
It depends on budgets, but there is this plan.
Okay.
And either way, students will have a chance to name an asteroid, and that in itself is pretty amazing. So if you have kids, if you have nieces, nephews, anyone that you know in the school system, point them in this.
This would be a fun thing for teachers to get their class to do.
Yeah, point them in this direction, and hopefully maybe somebody win. If you win, or you know somebody who wins, in this, you definitely will probably get like an interview. You can call in. I'll be like, "You're awesome."
Yeah, we'll talk to you about your space rock. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
All right, Heather, should we talk about tough hydrogel?
Yes.
Is this like something for my hair?
No, not quite.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, maybe some hydrogel might be something you deal with occasionally.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So hydrogel is a network of polymers that soak up lots of water. They end up like a jelly-like material, and like in diapers.
Oh, so, yes.
Yeah, that stuff there that soaks up liquids. So
okay, I don't like that stuff very much. I mean, it is good in the sense that it performs a pretty important function.
Yes, it performs its job very well. Now, researchers have already tried to make autonomous self-healing ones. So, you have a sheet, poke a hole in it and sort of self-heals itself, to repair. So, on Spacecraft or something, or anything on Earth where it'll hit and it needs to kind of repair itself. Now, they don't, but the problem is under strain, they don't really work that well. They might break, or the toughness of them has always been an issue. Like the toughest hydrogels so far are used to make soft contact lenses. So if you've ever dealt with soft contact lenses, you have the idea that they still can, tear and fall apart. Now, this particular hydrogel is coming out of Harvard, an engineering team who created it from 2 different polymers. So the bonds from one are able to kind of break and come together again under pressure. So it spreads the energy out over a wide area. And the other molecules are kind of sticking everything together. So you have one holding everything together and one being able to kind of stretch and kind of spread out the energy and the pressure.
Okay.
What this does is able to hold the gel together and actually stretch to 20 times its normal length or thickness.
Ooh.
There's a video in the show notes, and you can see it's a really thin gel.
Yeah. And translucent and...
translucent, thin, and a ball falls, and it just stretches. And then, it reverberates back and forth, but it's not harmed.
It doesn't go back to its original shape, though.
Well,
it looks like it stays stretched. But it stays intact.
Well, this is really slow motion. Think of if you drop a rock in water. You have the ripples going for a little while, and then it'll kind of flatten out. So I imagine that this is just the same thing. It's just slowed down, so it's just looking at the time frame that it's rippling. It's not to complete, steady state, calm down again. The other thing, obviously, just dropped once. It doesn't bounce back up and down. Just showing how well it can stretch and it can not be torn. So this opens the possibility of you have these that are self-healing, but the whole idea that maybe you don't need something quote-unquote self-healing. If this can stretch, then you have this coated on something, and something hits it and it can stretch, it can bounce back, and it's not going to be harmed, it's not going to be broken.
Think about it. I wonder if it was strong enough. Car barriers even could be an interesting application if it could catch it in a way. We have these freeways on our freeway. We have these express lanes that change direction during the day, and they put down these massive barrier sets of nets, and in case somebody accidentally gets on the on ramp when it's the opposite direction. And it would be interesting if you could use something like a series of these instead. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I'm thinking purely space and stuff like that, but yeah, on a larger scale, what if you could have something that could stretch and hold its strength?
Yeah. Ooh, space applications would be great too. I'm sure.
That's the first thing I think about.
Of course. What would you use it for?
Well, coatings on if you have long-term space travel, like say you have a manned mission to Mars or something.
Yes.
There are micrometeorites flying about the solar system. Yes. There is a lot of things just in Earth's atmosphere. There are paint chips from space shuttles from 10 years ago. There are all these different things, and they track everything bigger than a certain size. I forget how big. And anything that's large or might be in danger of the space station, then you'll hear occasionally, they had to move the space station a little so that the chances of it getting hit are small. So, anything large, you still don't want to hit your spacecraft, but it would help for the smaller items. You want to coat the outside of your spacecraft with something that's going to sort of, when a micrometeorite hits or, paint chip flies, it's going to create a micro hole, possibly. You want something to seal that. So you have something that self-repairs, or possibly you have this where it kind of bounces in and back. The whole idea is you're maintaining a sphere of atmosphere, essentially.
Yeah.
So you're not going to lose anything through a hole. you're not losing atmosphere through that or anything else. So these kind of things are very useful for, space travel. Or possibly anything. I think I've seen, what about for screens or for, some sort of solar panel or anything that's...
Or what if, like, you stretched it on purpose? So if because it's small and tight, you could transport something smaller, and then when you get somewhere, you put these pins in it and you stretch it out, and now you have a cover of some kind or something like that.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Something that you can hold something down or protect something, and it's all about, this stretch, that it's so thin and it can stretch that much.
Yeah. Well, guess what? I have good news.
You do?
Yes. The podcast has just unlocked another podcast badge here, Heather, because when a podcast, unlike traditional media, so one of the things we're great about is we go back and we follow up on stories. You hear about somebody in the news and then you never hear about it again, especially when it comes to science stories. And you always wonder, well, whatever happened to these crazy robots that are eventually going to kill us all? And Heather, I believe you do have an update.
I do. Occasionally we have talked about Boston Dynamics. Yes. They have the Alpha Dog. It's the robot you may have seen where it's looks like a horse or a dog, and it's walking along a parking lot, and it slipped on ice, and it was able to maintain it straight. They went up and they kicked it, and it was able to maintain straight, and it didn't go after them because they kicked it. It just kept walking. But now they have continued to evolve and new stuff going on. So they have their Alpha Dog, kind of the descendant of that one that we were just talking about, Big Dog. It now has the ability to follow a soldier without with no assistance.
Oh, really?
Follow, and it tromps after you.
Oh, sorry, I had the audio on this one. That's what it sounds like, huh?
Yeah, it's actually...
At least it's not going to sneak up on me.
No, but it is actually much quieter than the previous version.
It looks like it has eyes. It looks like it has eyes. It's really...
It has to be able to track a soldier. It's just watching you, and then it'll follow where you're going.
Oh my gosh.
It is bulkier and heavier than a horse. It can carry 400 pounds a year. Walk for 20 miles without needing a recharge.
Okay, you got my attention here. This is great. So here in the video version, we're showing the follow the leader mode, and Heather has embedded this video in the show notes and linked it as well. And it has nobody controlling it, no cables connected to it. It's completely autonomous.
Yep, no remote control or anything. It's just thinking for itself, following the person that it was told to follow.
It actually looks a lot like a horse in some respects.
Yes, it kind of trots. Now it's only able to go this one's able to go a certain speed. It can only walk at about a few miles an hour, trot up to about 5 miles an hour.
It kind of has hoofs too. Yeah.
Now, in the case of military use, a soldier will move about 7-10 miles an hour. So it's not quite up to the speed that they want. So now they're working on being able to increase its speed without sacrificing the distance between recharges. But
this is amazing.
Yeah, and they're also working on other robots. I saw one on their website that is about very humanoid and being able to walk,
No.
Humanoid walk.
No.
Yeah, look at that. It was kind of creepy. No, we've talked about the robots before where, it looks like a little, remote control car almost, and it can jump 30 feet. They have one that can kind of climb up a wall. Now, the one that caught my interest immediately in this case was the cheetah, I believe you were showing it a minute ago. Where this thing runs. This king can run 18 miles an hour. Well, the last record for a robot is 18 miles an hour. This one can run up a little over 28 miles an hour. Now, just so you know, the fastest sprinter in the world, Usain Bolt, 27.8 miles an hour.
So
it runs fast.
The robots have us beat.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the rest of us don't quite run that fast. Now, right now, it's still tethered to an external power source.
That makes a big difference.
Running on an indoor treadmill. But next year, they plan to finish a untethered one. Now, most cases, I'd be like, I don't know, next year. These guys, they're booking it in.
Yeah, they obviously know what they're doing.
Oh, incredibly so. So I believe that will be fairly soon. So
it just seems like when they put an independent power source on it, that's going to add a lot of weight. Do you figure that's got to drop the speed down from 28 miles per hour?
Possibly. It seems like they're working on this sort of balance. I mean, they have the one that,
this one would probably be the short. This would probably have a short range, wouldn't it?
Yeah, this is a sprinter. You've got the runner that goes for 20 miles without a recharge.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
So maybe you'll have the sprinter version that doesn't go as far, but
now what they ought to do is load Windows XP on it and connect it to the internet, and then everything should be fine. And don't put a firewall on it.
Yeah, then it'll fall down, and then it'll stand up and
chase everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now in other good news.
Besides robots that can outrun us and can carry like multiple people at once.
Yeah.
And we've talked. Curiosity had the jetpack and the laser. All these robotic features are just scaring people, but that's okay. It's still really cool.
Yes, I do agree with you there. It's well, that's how all new technology is, right?
Well, yeah, it looks really cool, and then you're like, creepy, cool.
Yeah.
Can't quite decide where I am.
Right. Exactly.
But we have less creepy updates. Some more.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I mentioned it back in May, where we had a disintegrating planet. Kepler. Yeah. Is looking at the blinking, to watch for.
This is what somebody should worry about. Don't worry about the robots. Worry about your planet disintegrating.
So they're able to spot planets through the dimming, and there was one that they're able to kind of see a dim, and then like a whole bunch of little mini dims.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, what's going on? So they thought, well, it must be dust, like, a dust cloud. Well, what if it's a planet disintegrated? There's been another team that was able actually to detect it. So there have been backup to kind of some more evidence that say there is a Mercury-sized world being boiled away from the heat of its parent star.
Wow. So
they're seeing it, fall away. They suggest there's kind of a tiny scorched world that is actually falling apart. Both sets of observations were with the Kepler. The temperatures that they're kind of estimating were about 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, it's whipping around that star about every 15 hours or so.
It must be traveling through time like a maniac. It's been so long since I've made it. It's been so long. I had to get it in there.
Oh, yeah. See, it took me a minute for time to catch up with me.
Yeah.
I realized where you were going with that, but yes, this is really traveling through time.
Yeah.
Except apart, doing so.
Right.
So Kepler can't look at the colors of the dust, but once they're able to get observations of the dust cloud itself, they'll be able to determine how much of it there is, the composition of what's there, and then from that they'll be able to estimate how long it will last, how long the little planet will last until it's completely fizzled away.
What an interesting thing for them to be able to watch.
Yep.
It's very cool. And I agree with Aviator Continuum in the chat room. He says, I hereby name it Planet Lobster. So I think that's good. I like that. All right, Heather. Well, guess what? I've got this button flashing right here on my screen, and it's got these spaceships flying around on it.
Yes, it does.
Oh, that must mean it's time for a spacecraft update.
Yes, this is a bittersweet one.
Okay.
Shuttle Endeavour is the last shuttle that was ever constructed.
Mm-hmm.
It had 25 missions, and now literally today, September 11th and into the 12th, is being mounted on top of a 747 shuttle carrier aircraft, and will be the last space shuttle orbiter to fly when it departs on Monday the 17th.
Wow.
It'll take a 3-day trip to LA International Airport. So we've talked about, all the different shuttles traipsing about the country, and this is the last one. It's going to cross the country, and it'll make quite a few, at least one layover, a couple of flyovers at different parts of the country. Cape Canaveral in Mississippi, in New Orleans, in New Mexico, in Edwards Air Force Base, in Sacramento, San Francisco, in Houston, in Clear Lake, in Galveston, and all sorts of different places. And it'll actually land in LAX on the 20th. Now, all this is kind of weather permitting. big question mark towards the sky. Everything might change at the drop of a hat or the drop of a raindrop. So it'll actually, start on, it'll be lifted off the crane, and then there will, it'll probably land. They're expecting that it will hoist off the ground, be lowered onto the back, and then remain there in Ellington on the 18th, and it'll land there for a layover, and that'll allow the Johnson Space Center employees and the Houston public, a chance to kind of go and gawk. And they didn't get one.
I would gawk, yeah. If it was in Seattle, I'd gawk. Are you kidding?
Well, yeah. And so then they will, kind of take to the air as the sun rises and stop over at Biggs Air Force Base in El Paso very briefly for a refueling. And then it will head off for the last time, departing from Dryden, fly over Northern California, pass by the NASA Center there, and, fly over a couple of different cities, San Francisco, Sacramento, and the state's capital, and head towards LA. And it will land, and it will kind of stay in LA for a little while. I mean, at the airport for a short time. And then it will actually take the 12-mile journey from the airport to the Space Center. And it'll get there on the 13th. Now, this is one that is, been kind of big news because it's kind of, everywhere else is kind of, the port, you set it down, on the ship, in New York, or it goes into the Smithsonian. Mm-hmm. This one is actually landing and then has to drive down the road.
And I almost clipped it just for the show to just kind of show sometimes how the news covers this stuff. The NBC National News ran a story. Did you know they're cutting down trees in LA to make room for the space shuttle?
Yes, it's actually been kind of a big deal at the last minute. I mean, it's been known for a while.
Yeah.
We're looking at it and, reading about it months ago about how they were going to have to replant some trees, cut down some trees, because it was literally going to be like within a foot, on either side, inches gap for space. But so they have so many trees that, like you said, they are going to cut down. They're going to replant some trees, but they're kind of going, okay, there is like one path. They have to find the roads that are built to.
It's not like they do this all the time. They're replanting, and also, getting
a shuttle.
This has happened before.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the first time that you might have to cut down a tree, and they're getting the space shuttle.
Yeah,
they are getting a space shuttle,
and they're replanting.
Yeah, they're going to replant quite a few of them.
Quite a few, most.
Yeah,
about 1 out of 5. No, I don't know.
I don't recall the exact details about how many are being cut down and how many were planted. But it will open up on October the 30th. Now, if you happen to be in any of those vague areas, I have got the details about which cities are, all the dates and cities there in the show notes. And if you happen to be in LA, they've even got a Google map showing you the path that it's going to take. So
very cool.
So hop over there. There's a couple of Twitter notes. And if you happen to be able to see it, it's going to be flying pretty low over some of these areas. Snap a pic, put it up on Twitter, tag one of us.
Yeah.
Tag JB_Mars_base.
There you go.
And I will definitely talk about it in the show.
Awesome, Heather. Well, great. And I really look forward to hearing somebody. I would love to have somebody report to On the Scene. Our On the Scene reporter will call him for that episode. Sound good? Okay. Let's turn over to the Curiosity update.
And liftoff of the Atlas V with Curiosity.
Touchdown confirmed. We're safe on Mars.
Oh, yeah, we're there. What's going on the old Mars planet now?
Alrighty. It's been starting to test out more of its arm capabilities.
Okay.
Some instruments, including the vibration testing, the alpha particle X-ray spectrometer, did some preliminary calibration readings.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. Go ahead.
That's okay. She knows what she's talking about, too. So this is going to be able to kind of send X-rays down at it and take spectrographic readings of materials. So they've got, a calibration grid, of known materials that they can kind of reach over, test it, and be like, all right, we know what this is. Now let's go over here, take a reading, so they can kind of go back and recalibrate their reader. And they also have the dynamic albedo of neutron instrument, which is DAN, which is able to check the ground to be able under the rover to be able to see whether it holds hydrated minerals. So if there's water somewhere in those, it was sent a command to take readings for 6 hours. So they have a long-term test of that. They also use the Mars Hand Lens Imager, MALI, to take images of the wheels and undercarriage of the rover, sort of a test to see how they could maneuver the arm in exact specific ways. This is one that is for very close-up imaging. It's like a microscope for the imager for the rover. Has a dust cover. Earlier in the week, I tweeted, sort of reached up and it took a picture of the main mast cam.
How cool is that?
Just like taking a picture of itself.
It's adorable.
It's like, those people that like in every roll of film, and I almost said roll of film, and that kind of dates me. Like had to take a picture of themselves. It's like I had an uncle. Every time you like go through a batch of photos, there he took a picture of himself. Now it's red, not because of dust, but because it has the dust cover on it. They were taking some pictures with the dust cover on, and then they took it off and took some pictures with it, with it exposed to be able to tell how detailed they could actually see. But I saw the self-portrait and I was like, that is hilarious.
Yeah.
It is awesome. So they were able to sit there and move around, check to see if they could take a precise picture of itself, if it could maneuver under their rover and be able to take those pictures. And so it's testing all the capabilities of the arm more and more of them. There are quite a few instruments on there. Another note that I saw is that, we've talked about how the various, instruments on Mars or orbiting Mars are able to kind of work in tandem to see where everything is going. They're able to take pictures of them as they fall and as they land.
Oh yeah.
And follow the tracks and be able to say, okay, here it is. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter is actually able to see Curiosity's tracks so far. And what's interesting is that the Reconnaissance Orbiter is so precise and the Curiosity is so big that you can actually see the separate wheel tracks. Like you see parallel tracks.
No.
Yeah. So there is the rover, and you can almost see like a little bit of a shadow.
That's awesome.
So he's like, you see these, dual wheels, tracks, and then almost kind of a shadow to this, to the right of a little bit for the mass cam. So they're able to really track where this thing's going and kind of getting a good idea of, where it's been, where it's going. They know where it's planning to go. The Glenald, I believe it's called, something along those lines. So they've got a formation there, and it's just that they can bring all of this together. It's just really cool and in a totally unbiased, Mars-centric way.
Right.
Because, name like Mars base, I'm going to be very, very, evenly.
Unbiased. Yeah, I believe it's called fair and balanced, I believe is the term you're looking for.
Yes, if everything applied to Mars. So.
Are you going to mention this cool belly shot that it got of itself, too?
Yes. Remember I was talking a minute ago how it was able to take a picture of its wheels and belly, and it was actually in pretty high def. So in the background, you can kind of see some of the hills and the mountains there.
It's just a great shot, you guys. If you're listening to the audio version, go check out the show notes. It's so cool. You see all the wheels.
You can see the Morse code dash holes in the wheels. Kind of see how much dust is kind of stuck up on them. Not much, not really dusty in this area, but be able to just see all of that.
Yeah.
So it took a picture of its feet. It took a picture of its head. It's doing all sorts of self-portraits today.
This so far, though, right, has all been pretty much best case scenario.
Oh, incredibly so. Everything had some of the instruments, the laser, was talked about it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
How they're able to, take the spectrographic analysis from that. They actually got better. They actually got less noise on Mars than they did on Earth testing.
Really?
Yeah. So the landing was perfect. Everything has been going so well. Where is some Martian wood to knock on? because we need to find some right now.
Yeah.
But it's been going really well.
Good. Well, and we've been getting some good updates too. So,
And we will continue to do so because everything is going to be for a while very exciting. There's going to be kind of some lulls as it travels between places, but we're going to have, shows like this where a whole bunch happens.
And it's probably going to be doing stuff as it goes, right? I mean, come on.
Well, yeah, you're going to be doing testing as it goes. There's, they've got a goal. So their whole idea is to kind of travel to that area without too much ADD in the middle.
Yeah.
But they're not going to totally do nothing between here and there. Essentially, with any of these rovers, you have to take it day by day. Plan for as far ahead as you can, and run under the bias that who knows when it might stop. Even this early in the mission. It's totally worst case scenarios, which you always have to keep in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
So, somebody in the chat room asked if they are continuing to do daily or weekly, conferences. They are doing a weekly Curiosity Rover report, as they put it, every Friday. I've got links in the show notes to where those are. Now, Curiosity as the Martian rover is going to be, a chunk image friendly. There's going to be a whole bunch of beautiful images to check out, so it's a really good excuse to head over, click them up, check everything out.
And they've got in this update, they've got some cool, some of the cool images that Heather's covered here, and some other ones too. Now, it wasn't done with Mohawk Guy this week, though, so I don't know. Might not be of an interest to people.
Well, there's going to be a different person every week.
Yeah, I want Mohawk Guy.
Oh, poor. But the guy has a name, too. Poor.
Yeah, it's Mohawk Guy, Heather.
Name now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would own that if I was him. I would strong.
Two mascots. Curiosity Rover.
And Mohawk Guy.
So,
All right, Heather, should we jump in the time machine?
Let's go for it.
All right, let's do it. Close the door. We're going far this time, folks. I can feel it. I can feel it in the vibrations of the time machine. Goodness gracious, it takes us to 190 years ago, September 17th, 1822. What happened this week in science, Heather?
The Rosetta Stone was deciphered. No, this is not the expensive, cool language software that you can buy off Amazon. This was the original. It is a ancient Egyptian granitoid steel, whatever. It is a big rock, and on it had some decree issued in 196 BC, and there were 3 scripts. It had ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, a Demotic script, which was sort of Egyptian cursive, sort of the way that they did, more business class stuff, and then ancient Greek. So it was, I think they called it like language of the gods, language of the people, language of the, Greeks.
Okay.
And so they had all of these up and down. They discovered it back in 1799. Now, at that time, could not translate hieroglyphs. So what they're able to do is they're able to say, okay, this is the same text for all 3 cases. Now, assume that it's saying the same paragraph. Now go through and be able to try to figure out what the different hieroglyphs mean. Sort of back calculate, reverse engineer the language. Now, it took like 20 years to just be able to translate the hieroglyphs on that stone. Specifically. Now, it was in like another 20 years until they could sort of translate regular Egyptian hieroglyphs elsewhere. So now in the end, they found a couple other pieces similar to this where there's, 3 languages, but this was the first instance where there were 3 different languages altogether. So now, now it means the Rosetta Stone. It's like the key piece of information that kind of unlocks everything. And it really was. It was this one bit, of carved rock that was able to allow us to translate ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. You look through and you can see, watch a program about ancient Egypt, and they're like, oh yes, this is the they post the hieroglyphs up on the screen, and they do the little translation and pop out the hieroglyph what it looks like, and it's all because this specific text was there, that they're able to kind of cross over and be able to get all that information from this. And it was finally deciphered 190 years ago this week.
Wow.
And if you remember, we talked about the book at the top of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Information there if you're interested in this.
Very, 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 very germane to that topic. So check it out, and it's a great way to support the show. Now we do have. Is this next part of the looking up segment?
Yes, it is.
We have a very special looking up into the sky this week, don't we?
That is right. First, we had somebody send in to make sure we saw that Jupiter has had an impact.
Yeah.
Something impacted. Now, there was an amateur astronomer who observed the flash from Oregon in the United States, sort of made an observation, sent it through the appropriate channel, said, hey, I think I saw something here. So they kind of held off, and they're like, okay, lots of people are watching Jupiter all the time. Let's wait and see. And sure enough, somebody from Dallas, Texas came back and said, I actually have an impact flash on my webcam.
On his webcam.
Yep, so he had it hooked up to his telescope, and it was going along. They saw the flash. So now the whole idea is to kind of, it was on the rotating back behind Jupiter. So now they'll have to wait for it to come back around to the front to see if maybe it's sort of, as they call it, bruised.
Left a mark.
Yeah, whether it left a mark. If you remember back, you may not remember, but back when Shoemaker-Levy 9, the comet hit, there were a whole bunch of different marks left. Almost looked like bruises, the largest one like a black eye almost.
I do remember that.
So, it depends on how large it was, but it may leave a bit of a mark, and that's sort of the after effect of it as it punches kind of a hole through the upper clouds, and it lets the lower atmosphere clouds kind of come up, and they're much darker.
I heard somebody call Jupiter the vacuum cleaner of our solar system.
It is. It kind of is. It really does collect a lot of that outer stuff that could have the ability to come in to the inner solar system, possibly cause us problems, and it really
helps us with that.
Does help us with that. It's actually around like that in astronomy circles as well.
Now, have you seen the video of the impact that's on Flickr?
I saw a picture of it.
Okay. Well, if you have the stream up, I have the video version of it too. You can actually watch the impact happen, and it's pretty basic, but it's exciting because the guy had it on his webcam, and it makes you wonder if we'll see a mark, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think we will. Kind of well. Talking about Jupiter. Well, it is an awesome planet, but we actually had somebody send in. He took a picture through his telescope. It was a Celestron C8 telescope, and took a picture with his Samsung Galaxy camera.
That's so he took a picture of it with his phone. That's so funny.
It was through the telescope. It was like the fact that he was able to hold it still so well. I was really impressed by that.
Now, I assumed when he showed these to me, and I might have gotten this wrong, Heather, but are these the moons of Jupiter that I'm seeing too?
Yes, that is correct. That is 3 of the 4 moons. I actually popped it up on my Twitter, sort of took his image and went through, and I had, through Sky and Telescope's webpage, I was able to clock in the time and the date that he...
That's awesome.
And he was able to show me where the moons were. And he got 3 of the moons. Io, Ganymede, and Europa, I believe. Callisto was far on the other side of Jupiter, so it may or may not have been able to be seen. And anyway, the focus of it was here. Now, on one of the images, I reversed it. I took the negative of it.
Yeah.
Because it's often much easier to see the black on the white. So you can kind of see the dots a lot easier.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Especially E. You can definitely see E a lot better.
Yeah, and certain star books will actually be that way, where it'll be black on white. You have a choice of white on black, white stars on a black background, or white black stars on a white background. It really lets you see some of the fuzzier or smaller stars a lot easier, just because how our eyes work. But if anybody else spies anything,
yeah, send it in.
Go ahead and send it on in. If you don't know what it is, or if you need help identifying, I can definitely do that for you. And you'll, one way or the other, you'll at least get a mention and a pop-up in the show.
Boy, talk about 2012 when people are taking videos of impacts on Jupiter with their webcams and pictures of Jupiter with their cell phone and then sending it into a podcast. This is incredible.
Our sent that in was Wesley Magyar, and I butchered your name.
Yeah, he shared that album with me on Google Plus, and that was really a treat. So thank you to him for sending that in. I'm glad he pinged you too, because I wanted to make sure you saw that, but you did. So now we have a traditional looking up too, don't we?
We do.
All right. Do you want me to hit it again? I can hit it again. I can. Oh. Well, I mean, I already played it once, Heather, but I'll play it for you twice.
Okay. So this week up in the sky, it's kind of a slow week in general, but we've got a couple planets up there. Venus, if you look up just a couple hours before sunrise, it's going to rise in the east to northeast. By dawn, it'll be high in the eastern sky. Mars and Saturn, you can view right after twilight. It'll be low in the west and the southwest. They'll kind of be, they're widening apart. They're getting farther and farther apart. They're going to be roughly the distance between your pointer and your pinky finger extended at arm's length. Okay. So you kind of spread those out like longhorns or something. They'll be about that far between each other. Now, Jupiter this week is going to be rising about midnight. It's going to be rising in the east to northeast. It'll be above the horizon. When it's just above the horizon, shall I say, there'll be a faint star, Aldebaran, about 4 fingers width to its right. Now, it is an orange star, which is why I bring up that star generally, because it's possible to mistake that for Mars. But over there by Jupiter, it is actually the orange red giant. So, got a couple planets up in the sky this week, so hopefully you might be able to see them. Yeah,
and if you do, maybe get a picture of them.
Yes, send it in.
Yep, and don't forget to follow Heather on Twitter. She is JB_Mars_base. You can follow me on Twitter. I am twitter.com/ChrisLAS. Heather, I do believe that is the whole show, isn't it?
That is a science.
Wow, well, that was a fun show. Great show, Heather. Thank you very much.
You.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you to the chat room, too, who's joined us over here at jblive.tv at 7:30 p.m. Pacific. And you know what, you guys, I encourage you to do that because we read your questions live in the show, and also your chat handles are in our videos, kind of like you're the star, and that's always a lot of fun. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning to this week's episode of SciByte. We'll see you right back here next week.